Now, Obama spoke up about the erosion of democracy that he sees with the new Trump administration. He has been silent, as far as I know, until now, and he talks about that. He's been observing, and he seems to feel the need to say something right now, which is not the usual case. Previous presidents don't usually say much at all about the current administration. That's the etiquette, but he obviously feels the need to speak up, and you'll see why. He does talk about this erosion of democracy and what could be done about it. So let's get into it. I'm going to react to this clip. It's not very long.
This has to do with something more precious, which is, who are we as a country and what values do we stand for? And now, this is not just an abstraction, and I think this is one of the challenges that we have. And I saw this even before the last election. I think people tend to think, democracy, rule of law, independent judiciary, freedom of the press, that's all abstract stuff because it's not affecting the price of eggs. Well, you know what? It's about to affect the price of eggs.
So yes, people do tend to think of this in the abstract. This is not happening now, but things have moved fast and democracy is eroding fast. He is being very polite, very diplomatic here, but those things he mentioned, the rule of law, democracy, freedom of the press, all of these things are eroding and something needs to be done about it. What can be done? He does talk about this.
One of the things that has distinguished us in the past has been this basic idea that we are a rules-based society. What that means is that, you know what, I can support one candidate instead of another, and I don't have to worry that the police are going to come harass me or my customers. That's what happens in other places. That's what happens in Russia. We take for granted the idea that we don't have to pay bribes or hire somebody's cousin in order to get a business permit. That's how we built the economy we did. That's why this place worked.
So those things he talked about there, they're mafia-style things, which seems to be the way that Trump is running things. And we've seen people basically abducted from the street, students and other people sent to El Salvador to harsh prison camp without due process going on, all of these things. He must be seeing things like that and going, what is going on? That's why he's speaking up.
And it has very concrete impacts on all of our lives. So, this is the first time I've been speaking publicly for a while. I've been watching a little bit. Yeah. Let me just close this portion of my remarks by saying it is up to all of us to fix this. It's not going to be.
So it was good to see people on the streets. It seemed to be like 1 million people. I've made videos about this, those big protest march. I think he might have been speaking just before that. So people did get out in the streets, and this is what he's talking about. It's up to people. It's up to us, the people, to get out there. If we see something wrong, to speak up, because nobody's coming to save us, and I think he's about to say that.
It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen, the ordinary person, who says, no, that's not right. I do think one of the reasons that our our commitment to democratic ideals has eroded is that we got pretty comfortable and complacent. You know, it has been easy during most of our lifetimes to say you are a progressive, or say you are for social justice, or say you're for free speech, and not have to pay a price for it.
Yes, that's true. The saying goes that the price of freedom, the price of democracy is vigilance. And what he's saying is that people in liberal democracies tend to have been complacent, become complacent. It can't happen here. Authoritarianism can't happen here. And here we have it rushing in very quickly. Things can change very quickly. As I said, we've had a number of things on many fronts: the rule of law, freedom of speech, and other things that are eroding quickly.
And now we're at one of those moments where, you know what, it's not enough just to say you're for something. You may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit. So, yeah, if you're a law firm being threatened, you might have to say, okay, we will lose some business because we're going to stand for a principle. If you are a
So what he's talking about there, big law firms are under pressure. Maybe they have government contracts, the Trump administration putting pressure on them. And are they rolling over, or are they standing up saying, no, we're not going to do that?
If you are a university, you may have to say, figure out, are we in fact doing things right? Have we in fact violated our own values, our own code, violated the law in some fashion? If not, and you're just being intimidated, well, you should be able to say, well, that's why we got this big endowment.
And some of those universities, the Ivy League universities like Harvard and so forth, their endowments are in the billions. They're basically investment funds, hedge funds, and so they could withstand this and stand up for it. If their funding gets threatened to be withheld, they could be okay.
Well, we'll stand up for what we believe in, and then we'll pay our researchers for a while out of that endowment, and we'll give up the extra wing or the fancy gymnasium that we can delay that for a couple of years, because academic freedom might be a little more important.
Absolutely.
For most of human history, and to this day in most of places in the world, there is a cost to challenging the powers that be, particularly if they're abusing that power.
Indeed, and it said that even last year, 2024, more of the world turned authoritarian, a bigger percentage, fewer democracies in the world. So it's like a trend in the world. It's moving towards that.
And this idea, and I've noticed this among some wealthier folks who, after George Floyd, they were right there, and a bunch of companies were talking about how they cared about diversity and they wanted to do this and they were all for that, and they are mute right now.
Yes, if you think about the big tech companies are like this, all those big tech companies have basically rolled over to Trump, went to see Trump, changed their policies, which they didn't do in 2016, and now they've totally changed. They've gone MAGA, all in MAGA, and just rolling over to whatever Trump wants, under threat of, antitrust, leave us alone. But is it worth it? Is what they're doing worth it?
What that tells me is it was okay when it was cool and trendy. And when it's not so much.
So DEI policies going out the window. Only if some companies have kept them on.
And that, I think, is what we have to, each of us has to examine in our own hearts. Is all right, we say we're for equality. Are we willing to fight for it? Are we going to risk something for it? We say that we're for rule of law. Are we going to stick to that when it's tough, not when it's easy. We believe in freedom of speech. Do we stand up for freedom of speech when the other person talking is saying stuff that infuriates us and is wrong and hurtful? Do we still believe in it?
Yes, we still believe in freedom of speech when somebody's saying something we don't like. I've said something about this on this channel and the Art of Value, the other channel, about Elon Musk, who is supposedly a free speech absolutist, but he's got a very thin skin. And when it comes down to it and push comes to shove, he is not about free speech. And how many people are like that who say they're about free speech, and it's going to be so important during this administration, during the next 3 or more years, if people are going to stand up and actually do something, or stand up for what they believe in and say, no, that's wrong when the time comes, like Obama said there. I think that was good words from him. As I said, presidents don't usually speak out against the current administration, but he obviously sees it as important to do that at this important time as democracy is eroding. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a link there to a related video. Do go and see that now if you want to. This is only the 3rd video on this channel, so do subscribe. And thanks to everybody for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.